So, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Christopher Snyder, and I build AI automations and workflows for businesses. And for today's video, what we're going to be hopping into is a lead generation workflow that I personally built on n8n. And I am very excited to show you guys this build today. Hopefully, this build provides a lot of value, especially for you freelance businesses out there as well. Hopefully, this build and workflow could be of some value to you as well. So without further ado, let's hop into this workflow. Alright, so heading into this workflow here, obviously, for our first step, we have our start lead generation trigger. Kind of self-explanatory. As soon as you do, click on the trigger, then it's going to start the whole workflow process. And obviously for our next step here, we have our scrape LinkedIn employees function. So basically what this is going to do is it's connected to an API, so it's going to scrape the LinkedIn URL, and then it's going to go inside LinkedIn and scrape all of the LinkedIn companies that are within that specific URL, and it's going to filter based off of the employee names, job titles, etc. And after it does go inside the initial LinkedIn URL, it's then going to go into the company's URL, and then that's what's going to scrape the specific employee data. So it has that data initially to move on to the next step and scrape the LinkedIn employees specific data and contact information as well. So yeah, that's what that function is for. So let's move on to the next. Also, one thing I forgot to mention as well, you can set specific parameters inside of the previous function. So inside the scrape LinkedIn employees function, you can set specific parameters inside of this as well. So if you want to only target companies that are based in your specific country, you can also do that as well. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. But then moving on to our next function that we do have here. So I have a filter decision makers function. So obviously this is kind of self-explanatory, but I basically inputted a JavaScript function. So basically it's only going to target, obviously, the important decision makers of the country. So I have it personally, so it's only going to target CEOs, founders, or head of manager titles, stuff like that. And it's only going to target and scrape that specific data, and it's not going to target anyone else or get anyone else's contact information inside of that specific company's URL. So it's only going to target the decision makers initially. So that's going to be it for that step. So let's move on to the next function. So moving on to the next step here, I have my validate contact data function. So basically this is just going to check if the contact information does exist. And obviously I have two functions here within the data. So I have true, and then when it does say true, it's then going to move on to the extract company domain function. And if it's false, it's basically just going to cancel out that lead, and it's basically just going to reset until you keep getting quality contact data, so you can at least move on to the next step. And then that's when obviously you're going to be implementing these APIs into these next steps. So I have for example ChatGPT for my extract company domain, and also APIs set inside snob.io and hunter.io, so I can get the company's contact information. And obviously these API keys are going to be getting pretty expensive the more you do use them for scraping leads. So that's why I have this specific function here, so it's able to at least make sure that you do get quality leads and quality contact information first, and quality data to make sure that the company does exist, and make sure that it has the essential information that's needed to at least move on to the next step in the process. So that's why I have at least this here, just so you're not getting any faulty leads, for example, and then you're just going to be wasting your API usage, and that's just going to increase your costs for that specific API a lot more. So yeah, that's why I have this specific function in here. So yeah, let's move on to the next step. So moving on to the next step in this workflow here, obviously as you can see here, I have my extract company domain function. So basically this is just going to be using ChatGPT to extract the company's domain from that specific LinkedIn URL. And then I have two separate functions here connected to this same function as well. So if you're not already familiar with what Hunter.io is or Snob.io, basically they're just email discovery platforms. So basically this is just going to search for their emails from the specific data that we had previously. So from the previous LinkedIn company's data that we do have already, and also from the company's specific URL that we scraped from ChatGPT to extract that specific company's domain from that LinkedIn URL. It's basically going to be scraping for that company's information, and then hopefully we can use these two email discovery services so we can find the specific email, for that specific employee lead for that specific company that we are looking for. And then we have our merge email results function. What this is going to do is going to take the data from both of these email discovery websites, and it is going to compare the data from both of them, and only the highest confidence for the data from that specific website is going to move on to the next step in the process. So you're only going to be getting the highest quality data from these specific websites, so that only the highest quality data for that specific lead is going to move on to the next step in the process. Then it's going to go into our email found function. So obviously this is going to approve if the email has been found or not, and if email has not been found, it's going to go into this Telegram function down here. It's just going to notify you that that the email was not found, basically. And you can use whatever service that you want, or like email, for example. I'm just using Telegram just for example's sake. And then if obviously the email was found, then it's going to be moving on to this next step of the process. And obviously we have these two functions here. And now what it's going to do here is it's going to basically just scrape all of the company data, and also for that individual's data on Apollo IO, for example. And then it's going to take all of that data, and then it's going to go into our next function, and then it's going to generate our personalized email on ChatGPT. So basically I have the API set up in ChatGPT, and you can set your own scripts accordingly to whichever scripts that you do have, and then also set make sure you have your data parameters inside of your script functions as well, so it can incorporate the data that it does get from the specific workflow. So you can then input it into your own scripts, so it can then create that your own personalized email for that specific lead. And then moving on to the next step, then we have these two functions here as well. So it's going to generate the subject line. So obviously, generating the subject line for the email using the API in ChatGPT to, like I said, generate that subject line. And then it's going to verify the email if it exists again. So this is just a double verification process that I inputted personally, just to make sure that we do have like the best deliverability results that we could possibly have, and just making sure that we don't have any faulty emails within our lead scraping tool. And then obviously moving on to the next step in the process, we have our email valid. Obviously, this is just going to be the last checkpoint basically for just making sure that the email is valid, and then it does have a verified mailbox as well. So obviously this is just a double verification system to just make sure that we do have that specific company's email. It is a high reliability email box to send to in the first place. And then moving on to the next step here, we have two functions here. So you can either save it to your Google Sheets, so you can create your own spreadsheet. So basically that specific lead and that specific company's details is then going to be added to your spreadsheet, or you could add it to basically a CRM or any outreach platform that you do have. So I'm just using Instantly for example's sake here. And then the last step in the process, I have a rate limit delay function. So basically what this is going to do is going to limit the amount of leads that this whole workflow is going to be able to scrape. So once that certain data limit is reached on that specific rate limit, then it is going to then stop the entire workflow. So obviously, you're not spending too much on your APIs for, this whole workflow process. So it is only just going to go to that specific limit, and it does not, increase your budget for that specific limit, and you're not just spending recklessly on these APIs. So it's very essential to have as your last step, just so you don't, overextend your API usage. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you found this workflow very informative, and hopefully you can incorporate something like this into your business as well. Or if you're a freelancer out there as well, hopefully you can incorporate this into your lead generation outreach strategies. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. If you have any questions on these workflows as well, make sure you go down in the comment section as well. I'll love to respond to any questions, comments, or concerns that you do have on these workflows or just more information in general. And if you're a business out there as well who does want to work with me and have something like a workflow automation implemented to your business, I'll have my business email in the description down below. And yeah, that's going to wrap up for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video.